and that makes it easier to synchronize the files. So remind me, and I'll do that. And by the way, we're now live as of, 10 seconds ago.
Well, and even as we're live, information is pouring in as we speak.
Yes. I got a little
People,
information from Shreveport, which we're not really going to talk about here tonight. But yeah, and I'm sure you're getting text messages. And
as we went live, literally, I had some information that nobody knows and just popped in right now. People wanting us to get it out there.
it's funny how that works. And yeah, so we're already at about 17 people, 20 people. I don't know, something like that. Let me make sure I got my text messaging going here and all that. And I'll tell you what, let's
Yeah,
go ahead
but
and
but Rex, nobody
mhm.
watches us. Nobody
Yeah,
listens to us.
you
They don't
know,
care what we put on the Facebook or any of the platforms that we're on. They don't care.
yeah, except when they talk about it when we're not there, and sometimes when they're there. But yeah, we'll talk about some numbers here in a minute because I've been crunching a few numbers. But let's go ahead and let's do our 2.5 minute countdown, folks. For those of you that are new, we do a 2.5 minute countdown that lets us share things out. Lets everybody grab some popcorn, something to drink. For those of you that are followers of ours and been watching, well, y'all know the drill. So, what you say we do a 2.5 minute countdown, Mr. Lowry?
Roll with it.
Here we go. We'll be right back, folks. Yeah, we could do that. I mean, we definitely need the help, and we've got the digital tools and ways to do that. And hello, folks. We were up to about 40 people. We just came out of our countdown, and I'm still sitting here trying to share video. But yeah, dude, our biggest killer right now is we've got a lot of data, a lot. We're kind of keeping up with it, but it's like playing whack a mole. Um,
Yeah,
so we could always use some help.
we're like information overload. We're not complaining. We asked for it. It's what we wanted, and it just keeps pouring in. And fortunately, there's a few people out there that want to consume it. And we were just chatting about how best to get information out there because we only do this, once a week on Bossier Watch, then twice a week on Louisiana Watch, and it's so much content, so much detail, and I don't know, are we being effective? Are we moving the needle? Are we not? I
Well, I
don't
don't
know.
know. We need a little feedback from the folks that are watching. Hello, everybody. We're up to, I don't know, well, let's see, about 42 members across all three of them. I need to double check the audio real quick. So, yeah, and I've got a few numbers we're going to talk about here in a second. Let me,
Yeah, and so tonight, going into what we're going to talk about, what we're going to show. Hello, Charlie and Judy East. Pray over Shreveport. Thanks for watching. Ronald J. Cheatham, Jimmy Richardson, Barry Butler, Ashley Bullock. Hello, Ashley. Glad to see you. But, about what we're going to talk about tonight, um, we've got some anonymous pictures that were sent in. Pictures, y'all.
that could be interesting. That could go one way or the
we,
other.
we've got anonymous pictures, that were sent in. We're going to share those. We've got anonymous emails. That's part of the content. And you're kind of like, all right, narrow it down for us so we can determine whether or not we want to go watch, The Curse of Oak Island or not. All right, they're all in Bossier City. That's what we're going to tell you. It's all in Bossier City.
Yeah, and so, circling back for a second, though, to the amount of content. So I just want to share some numbers I was kind of putting together earlier for, marketing purposes, and we may try to have some advertisers in the near future, or sponsors or something like that, to kind of help out with some of the expenses. But look, we have had, since we started, which was in October of last year, October 2020, we have now published over 120 hours of video content alone. That's over 12,000 hours of that video content has been viewed. We've had over 9,000 comments. Our average reach for all the posts since the very first post, well, since October of last year, we're averaging about 1,700 in the reach per post. And folks, to put that in perspective, that's not huge by some viral, shows and pages and all that, but we're all organic. We have spent $25, Duke, maybe $50 total advertising this thing, and that was last fall. So, this is all organic. This is all people inviting people and all that sort of thing. And so I just wanted to share some of those numbers out because, 120 hours of content, that's a lot. That's 5 solid days if you started watching from beginning to end. And that's Bossier Watch and Louisiana Watch.
And a lot of people, early on, people were telling us, Rex, remember, it's if you had put a little money into advertising on this, you would get people to watch your shows. And I remember we thought it was kind of funny. We were like, no, you know what? This ain't about buying our way to get people to pay attention to content. That wasn't right. What we didn't want to buy our way. We wanted to get people to follow along that wanted to, become knowledgeable on the content that we were sharing, talking about, and become engaged. I mean, I don't know. Buying stuff seems to be the cheap way out, and we wanted to pay our dues and work to get this to where it needed to go.
Yeah, I agree, and we talked about that extensively in the beginning. I think we're kind of to the point in the growth of this thing due to everybody liking and sharing and commenting and tagging other people because that number of the average reach isn't really the true number because we have a lot of people that double up and watch and all that sort of thing. But I think we're to the point now, if we, pushed a little bit out there, at least for the local and regional area, honestly, I'm not really worried if people from Texas or Southern Arkansas watch, Bossier Watch. I mean, it's fine if they do. But we push out to our area and try to get some people that may be suppressed in the algorithm, in the Facebook algorithm, and haven't seen it yet. But anyway, so we'll get to all that in the future. All right, what is on tap for tonight other than mysterious anonymous pictures?
Well, I told you, we've got anonymous pictures from Bossier City. We've got anonymous emails from Bossier City. And we've even got anonymous emails from, maybe I shouldn't say from Bossier City because we really don't know where they came from.
Yeah, they could have been from anywhere.
We know they're pertaining to Bossier City.
Right.
And so, the elected officials in Bossier that are watching, and they're all wondering and worrying whether they're watching on YouTube so we can't see who they are, or whether they're under an alias watching now, or they have somebody sharing it out to them later, or they're going to come back so nobody will see them watching live. Hey, it is what it is. Jim Wells, I will go back to James Welborn, Jim
Right.
Wells. There's a lot of people that come before us trying to uh, shed light on governance in Bossier, and that's what we're doing. We're glad we're doing it, and we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you pointed that out because Jim Wells of the My Bossier blog, and he passed away a few years ago, was a great guy, and he was part of the inspiration for all this, and part of the inspiration because on his blog he allowed anonymous comments, and so that was part of the inspiration for being able to set up Proton Mail to give folks a relatively easy way to send information in that we couldn't track back to a source. So anyway, yeah, we're stepping on the shoulders of several people who have come before us. We're just trying to step on the gas pedal with it a little bit. So anyway, or at least light the bridges on fire.
Yeah, and hey, Tim Mueller, Mary Cheatham, Tony Thornton, David Womack. Hadn't seen David in a while. Kaylee Larkin, hello. Bo is doing well. And thank you guys for watching. All right, we're at 68, 70
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
maybe
Let's
even 80 across other platforms. Time to get into the business, right?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little more about the See No Evil on Shed Road. And I don't know if you knew it, Duke, but apparently the YMCA must basically be free. And did you know, I think we've made a huge mistake or oversight. Apparently that $30 million or whatever it's going to end up being has already been appropriated.
I can't even do that. The Y, my screen won't let me do it. How do you do all that sign language? YMCA.
Well, that's the little city councilman piggies doing the YMCA the village councilman piggies down there doing the YMCA dance. And I was gonna play the song, except we probably get hit for copyright on YouTube. So I
Now I
decided
bet Susan Breland in Rocky Mount. I bet she could put that YMCA out there.
probably so. One of these
Richard
days,
Harville, he could probably do it as well.
yeah, one of these days we need to do a skit with that. But anyway, so we're going to talk obviously some more about the Y because there was a city council meeting today, and the YMCA was basically the main topic, even though they didn't allow any public comments on it. They were a little
Now,
sneaky in how they did the agenda.
they were sneaky. They were sneaky. Yeah, look at there, Duke. You're flying away. Maybe I am flying away. But hey, before we fly away to the YMCA, Shed Road, we just can't let it go. Shed Road Railroad Crossing, Walter O. Big Carriageway. You guys, we got information on that. We got to get out there on it.
Yeah, and then the last thing is we're going to talk a little more, obviously, about the Shane McWilliams situation. The tale of two Bossier City police chiefs. We're not going to go too far into depth to that, but yeah, we got some stuff to share out there and a little information, and that's going to be ongoing, with the Civil Service Board hearing on it. Okay,
So, yeah, moving along. Let's go back to the Shed Road thing. I want to get on the Shed Road thing. So, Rex,
okay,
as you know, Cut 7. We put in our requests in one of our shows. We showed that we had requested a copy of the contract with the contractor on that, and we got one page. So then
yeah,
the next day after our show, and we went on about expressing the fact that okay, the citizens of Bossier should be concerned about the fact that they may not even have coverage, insurance coverage, may not
right,
even be no construction bonds or nothing, whatever, because the
right.
contract, the one page for a $37 million project, it didn't say anything about any of that.
Gosh, Duke, you mean a $37 million contract might have been more than just one page? I mean, I'm impressed if, they got lawyers that just do one-page contracts, but that's not
Yeah.
how it usually
Well,
works in reality.
so anyway, the next day after our show, we got a couple of more documents, I guess, trying to address the points that we made.
Right,
One being a copy of the letter from the mayor to the contractor, giving them the permit to begin work. The
right,
other was a copy of the bonding, the for the contractor, that to prove that he had insurance,
mm-hmm,
right?
right,
And we put that out there. But the thing was that kind of begged another question. And here you can see our email to the city attorney.
Right.
And when we send a email like these requesting information, we send them both to the mayor because the mayor is officially the custodian of records.
Right.
But the city attorney, for the most part, he answers all those requests on behalf of the mayor. And so the mayor was included on this as well. But as you can see, here is our email we sent on December 1st with a follow up to the city attorney and the mayor.
Right. Well, what's the problem with that?
Well, the problem is there ain't been nothing else said since then.
And this was
I
6 days ago. Now, I understand that, Charles has been busy with a civil service board hearing and suing the civil service board and, all those things that the city attorney likes to do to help run up the tab. So, we'll give him a little benefit of the doubt, but maybe he's having trouble locating this contract. I don't know.
now look, Rex, we have got some constructive criticism out there currently. Now,
Let me make this bigger. Hold on. There we go. How about that?
David Womack, get your spectacles on and read the contracts. I mean, I know you're a contractor and you do a lot of government work, but I mean, you should be akin to being able to read these small letters.
Yeah, the fine print, David. That's why they call it
fine print, David. So the point is we pointed out that, we asked the question, okay, look, this raised a few more questions. And is it possible for us to we just want to come down there and we want to look at the contract ourselves. We want to actually look at it in black and white and review it ourselves. And the other point was that we got some information shared with us that the councilmen were told that if they didn't act before December 4th or 5th, that there would be a $10 million loss to the city due to stipulations within the contract.
And I'm trying to work my way across that so everybody can read it.
Now,
okay.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing, and we just want to know, is that accurate or is that inaccurate? Because if the councilman made a decision to close one of the oldest, if not the oldest road in the history of Bossier City, Shed Road, it predates any railroad. If they made a decision based off of something within this contract that has not been provided to us, that there was this clause that would have given $10 million to the contractor if the job didn't start off on a certain date. I mean, we want to see it. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying we should be able to see it and the public should be able to see it because, Rex, to my knowledge, the only people I know that have potentially seen this contract are Manshak, the city attorney, and I'm going to speculate and say NTB because they jumped up at a council meeting and kind of spoke on some things regarding that. So, but from what I'm understanding, I don't know that any sitting city councilman has actually seen the actual contract themselves.
I don't know, but I got to say that this anonymous email person might have seen it. Of course, we have no idea who this is.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but
all right. Well, and I want to throw this out there real quick. So, my deal all along has been, honestly, I'm not worried about the historical value of Shed Road as much as the fact that they're rushed to, we got to close it. We're going to let UP blackmail us, blah, blah, blah. It was all based on a bunch of shenanigans, and they were rushing to it like we weren't going to pay attention to that. If they would have come out, let's say that this $10 million loss is true, if they don't meet a certain deadline, if they would have just come out and said, look, the clock is ticking. We've got this contract signed. Here's a copy of the contract. Here's the reason why we've got to do something. And if we can't get Union Pacific to agree right now, we've got to make moves to get this going. Might not have liked that, but would have been better than, it's because there were, 3,000 accidents and people are dying and there's blood all over the railroad tracks over there and we got to close it down now and all that other horse crap that they put out there. So.
Yeah. So. In the meantime, we had an anonymous email regarding this subject matter in Cut 8.
Yes.
And interestingly, whoever this anonymous emailer was, after our show, they made some pretty interesting comments regarding that. And you want to read it?
Yeah, so let me read through here for the folks that, don't have a magnifying glass sitting on their drafting table like David
And
does.
and this is also for the benefit of the people that are listening to the podcast, correct?
That is correct, because we will be releasing a podcast shortly. So, yeah, I like to try to read at least the high points of this. So it says the document you have been provided. Again, this is an anonymous email sent to our Proton Mail account. Is in fact the abbreviated version of the actual contract, which we pretty much kind of knew and joked about, that is used to respond to such requests as yours and for other legally required notification purposes. In common vernacular, I could imagine a city official saying, send them this, and maybe that will shut them up. And hopefully they didn't say that, because if they do, they don't know us very well. Anyway.
I don't know anybody that's ever been able to shut you up. But anyway, that's another story and it's entirely. Go ahead.
I've been this way since I started talking. Okay. This is the other person. It says, I'll draw your attention to Article 2 and specifically the last sentence. It's the referenced general conditions that are not made a part of what you have been provided. Those general conditions will reference all the specifics that will answer whatever questions you are left with and that you raised during your show 70. Excuse me. Please be aware that the same city official who gave you what you have has those general conditions, and this is interesting, and did consciously and intentionally choose not to send that part of the contract to you. As an aside, this is a bonded contract. Now, surely the city attorney, he must have accidentally sent us that one-page contract.
Accidentally, and then the next day after our show, accidentally sent us those next two.
Yeah, accidentally on purpose.
Now, Rex, okay, should we say it now that, there's been other occasions that we know for a fact that there's been information that has been, what's the proper word, redacted from public viewing by this official that we're talking about here? We already know that, right?
Yeah, and, of course, I go back to my thing that there's pretty much nothing that the government should redact short of, a SEAL team mission or a top secret CIA or maybe NSA stuff if it's an active, mission. But other than that, there's very, 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 very little that the government should hide from us ever.
And before you read that next sentence, I want to jump on out there, and people need to know that the only other agency that we've had that I know of, Cypress Black Bayou, has redacted information, correct?
Yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had to sit there for hours while they were redacting stuff on the fly, but that's a whole lot.
And as it would stand right now, you guys should know Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has redacted. In a request we made to them, they redacted, and it came up to, I think, 687 documents. And of those 687 documents, they redacted over 50-something% of those documents pertaining to your increase on your hunting licenses this last session and the changes.
What do we have, like top secret spy game wardens now? I mean, what is the deal?
I don't know, but interestingly, one of the emails that we did get was Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries minimizing our show and all of you. There's 75 people watching right now. They minimized you and all of us, and it's only 75 people. They could care less. They minimized it.
Yeah, they tend to forget math and the multiplication factor, but hey, it's interesting and to me that we were mentioned in Wildlife and Fisheries emails.
I know.
Apparently, we have enough of an impact that they had to mention us in their emails. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So,
and they redacted over half of them. But anyway, back to Bossier City.
Yeah, let's get back up here north to Bossier City because we could go on about the ducks and all that forever. All right. So let's go to this last paragraph right here. It says, there is another very good or very large concern for Bossier City residents, even with the abbreviated version you have been provided. That is the substantially complete reference. The contract defines substantially complete as 550 days from the notice to proceed. As written, Bossier City is required to pay J.B. James Construction the full contract price in 555 days without regard to the satisfactory completion of what J.B. James Construction has been hired to do. That's like agreeing to pay a roofer 2 weeks from now without the stipulation that they actually even put a new roof on your house. That is a very casual way to determine when a contractor has earned $32 million or $32 million of taxpayer dollars. Anyway. Hoping you keep up the good work.
Now, what this guy or this person, whoever is saying is basically, Rex, you and I read into it.
Mm-hmm.
The council and the mayor, they were wanting to just move at lightning speed to dispense with this business, with the shutting down the railroad crossing to get this project going. And this right here kind of sums it up, because we got the document of when the mayor or permitted the construction company to begin work, and that was in September. So as of the date of that council meeting, when they finally passed this resolution, I think we did the math, and from that date, I think we were looking at, now we were down from 555 days to 465 days. And if this anonymous emailer is correct, now we're looking at 100 days less on the ability to complete this project because of the way this contract was written. You got 100 days less, and that regardless, the way that's written, regardless, on day 555, the city's going to be cutting a check for $32 million.
Must be nice. I wonder who wrote the contract. And we can't blame Zamboni on this one.
So
I think he just walked into this, with the new administration, so can't really blame him on this.
Well, and I don't know that I would agree with that, Rex, because
drum roll, please.
Because the former mayor, Lo Walker, they awarded the contract to J.B. James in, I think it was June of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But the letter to begin construction wasn't sent out by Lo Walker. It was sent out by Tommy Chandler It was sent out in September. So it begs the question, if you didn't have the proper permits, and I shouldn't say permits, but ability to gain access to Union Pacific Railroad property, if you didn't have those
if you didn't have the go-ahead, basically, the green light. You didn't have the
go-ahead in September, why did Tommy Chandler send the letter out to the contractor to begin work and lock us in on $37 million and whatever penalties could become of that? He effectively started the clock ticking without the contractor even being able to get on the property. Now, it begs the question, do you think Tommy read all of these, and he made this decision on his own? Do you think that?
I was trying to be relatively nice tonight. So are you
sure? Nice is out the window. I mean, I can love Tommy Chandler to death, but this is business, and the bottom line is somebody gave Tommy Chandler counsel to send that freaking letter out, because he wouldn't have done it on his own. I'm sorry. That's just the bottom line.
I've made fun of certain attorneys not reading contracts, and, there's a reason for that. So, anyway, this is, the Shed Road stuff is still trudging along, whether they're going to close that crossing eventually or not.
Now, Rex, Jay Lynn makes a hell of a comment right here. I really think you ought to pull that up.
Let's see if we can add that one into the broadcast here. Here we go. Jay Lynn says, for those of you listening by podcast, the contractor should only be getting draws on the job and should only receive the final draw after a final inspection. True, and that's generally how most of these contracting jobs work. And we need the entire contract to be able to verify all this.
Yeah, and the point is, and there's been some people that have pointed and said, hey, you can get the contract at, the Benton, and we acknowledge that, but when we send a request to the city and the city attorney, you would think that they would be forthcoming in providing that. But we're just trying to make the point that for some reason, that information is not easily attainable from a simple request. And our purpose is to shine the light out there and give it to you. But for some reason, it's not real easily attainable.
Yeah, and so either the email got lost or hadn't been read yet, or well, it's just a
Yeah,
stop,
how
or
many
it's
times is that gonna fly, Rex? Come on.
what's the Charlie Brown teacher thing? Wah 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 wah.
Well, here's
Uh,
what I want to know: who wrote the contract?
yeah,
Because there's more about this whole thing that stinks than we've even let on to.
right. David Womack put up a comment, and he is a contractor. He said usually they will use a standard AIA contract, American Institution Architects. The engineering firm usually puts this together and then tells the owner when and where to sign. True, but I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, that like in the case of the city or whatever, that they would have the city attorney or one of the assistant attorneys at least review that contract.
So I had someone tell me that's in the know on these things, and they said when you have these situations pop up where you've got this contract that's kind of put out there, and you have something that pops up and throws a monkey wrench into the system, you know, um, you 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 got two choices for the most part. You got one, you put your foot on the gas pedal and you drive the thing as fast as you can possibly drive it to get the thing done, or two, you reach out to the contractor and you try to come to an agreement to renegotiate the whole thing and stop the clock, the whole thing. I want to go out on a limb here, Rex, and say that I will bet there's no communications between anybody in city government in Bossier City and or Manchac with the contractor to stop the project. What can we do to stop it? And what can we do to, let's say, refigure this thing and gather ourselves back up and do the right thing? I don't think anybody, for some reason, I don't think anybody considered any alternative other than putting their foot on the gas pedal and going as fast as we can to get this project and keep this project going.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, there's, this. I hate to circle back around to Shane McWilliams and several other things that have happened, but it's very similar to that, where it's basically done half-assed.
It's basically done half-assed, and again, who wrote the contract? Who went to the mayor's office and called for NTB to be thrown out the door? Who did that? We
Yeah,
don't know, but we do know that it originated from City Hall.
right.
And, Cut 9 may have a little bit of insight to this.
Well, it very well may. So let's put cut 9 up here on the screen, and we'll blow this up a little bit. Sorry, folks, can't do much about the type and the font there, but it's basically, this is an invoice. Let's see, who is this? From Manchac Consulting to, is that Pam Glorioso? Yeah, from Manchac to Pam when she was CAO. Total due this invoice, $69,283. This was back in June the 15th of 2021.
Now, this is one of numerous invoices, so you can't, this one particular invoice doesn't tell you anything just earth-shattering, but the fact is total for project, Walter O'Bigby Carriageway Project Management, $2,100,000. So you had a project manager, and they were billing for it, and in fact, in June of 2021, here's one of those bills. I just saying, it seems to me that somebody was billing for managing everything, and somebody dropped the ball, and then one of your subcontractors you tried to throw under the bus later on in the year, and as it would turn out, they produced emails and evidence that would show that they weren't the problem in the process.
Yeah, it's a heck of a money trail to try to follow because it zigzags everywhere, and Arguably that might be by design or it might just be by incompetence. At this point, it's hard to tell.
That is exactly right. So I would point out that at today's council meeting, and we're going to get there, NTB was at the council meeting today as well.
Oh, were they?
Didn't speak.
That's right. I didn't pay attention to the crowd close enough to see them. Did they have look like it maybe an attorney guy with them again today?
No, they didn't have their attorney with them today, but they were there and they were present. Last meeting, they were there and they had their attorney present. So before this is all said and done, City of Bossier, you guys is probably going to cost you. Don't know for sure, but I would, venture to say that somebody has done cost you a lot of dollars before it's said and done. We'll see.
Well, it seems like this administration and current group of councilmen, it's what's that saying that goes around now? The UL Coleman stuff cost a ton of money, but this set of councilmen and this administration just said, hold my beer for a minute and we'll show you.
Now, it would seem that, this deal with Shed Road is over with, Rex. I mean, isn't that what everybody's led to believe?
Yeah, they have a resolution. They're going to close the road permanently. They're going to get their overpass because they bowed down to the railroad. And yeah, that seems to be it. Surely there's not more.
Well, I got to tell y'all, everybody watching, and there's a lot of folks have joined in on the show that, I wanted to kind of recognize. Barbara Murray, hello, good to see you. Michael Ferris, but hey, Lisa Richardson, there is more. There is actually more.
But wait, there's even more.
So this Shed Road thing, y'all are wondering, like, guys, they already voted on this. As Foster Campbell would say, why you want to keep flogging that dead horse? Well, it would just so happen that it was brought to our attention that there was some things filed in Baton Rouge. Rex, did you know that?
Oh, well, what were those things? Let's see. Who could be in Baton Rouge that would have filed something? Was it the Office of Revenue or Department of Revenue? No, probably not. The AG's office?
Well, it wasn't the Department of Transportation, I'll tell you that, because they called today apologizing for not getting us our documents to us regarding a specific construction project.
Oh, well, good
here
for them.
Here in Bossier, hat in hand. But, we've got it on good authority that there have been some complaints filed in Baton Rouge surrounding the resolution that was passed by the Bossier City Council. And now, we didn't get all the details exactly what was filed or whatever. Just all we got was the information that something was filed down there. And for all of y'all watching, again, we're trying to figure out the details and find out what exactly was filed, but it has something to do with the action that the Bossier City Council took regarding the closing of Shed Road. We can speculate.
Very, 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 very interesting. So, I wonder what all that is about. Did somebody file something with the AG's office? That'll be interesting to see. Okay, so I'm kind of getting ready here to show the City Council stuff here in just a second. So
yeah, if anybody watching, because there's a lot of folks that watch our show that are in tune to some of the things that are happening, maybe if any of y'all know any details regarding what exactly was filed in Baton Rouge, because honestly, we're deaf, dumb, and stupid to what exactly has been filed, but all we know is that there has been something done down there, and we don't know what. We can start kind of rooting around and try to find out, but if you already know, save us some time and help us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let me make sure I got this software set up right. Okay, so let's see. Let me check this off of the list here. So yeah, a little more Shed is done. We're moving on to talking about the YMCA. Man, the Village People. Okay. So what kind of happened at today's City Council meeting? Anything earth-shattering or?
Well, I thought there were some pretty amazing things that took place, but I got to tell y'all, most of y'all, the 80 plus people on just on Facebook watching, we can't see how many on the other platforms, but the 80 plus people just on Facebook, and all of y'all on the other, Kaylee Larkin, she can hear Bo. Can y'all hear Bo?
Yeah.
Did you hear him, Rex?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got to crash the show every show.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So, the thing is there were a lot of things, but unless you're a political wonk, you might would have missed some of the significant things, and they were subtle, and they didn't just jump out at you, and they weren't like completely spelled out. So, in a previous show, Rex, let's frame this.
Okay.
We're all talking about YMCA in Bossier. That was the meat and potatoes of what went on in Bossier today.
Mm-hmm.
And the overriding question is, who is really pushing this YMCA? Who's doing it? Because I guess it depends on where you're looking for who's pushing it, who wants it, why they want it, but who is pushing it? And we talked about that in another show.
Well, the obvious, easy answer for one of those, and I'm going to pull up a full screen deal while I'm sitting here talking too, so we can show some of that. But, the obvious, easy answer is, well, the YMCA is pushing it. They've got a vested interest in trying to make sure that this deal goes through. A $30 million vested interest in it. So obviously...
Well, what part do they have vested in it? That's what I'm wondering. What part did they have vested in it?
Well, I can tell you pretty easy. Their vested interest in it is simply making money.
And to everyone watching, look.
And I don't fault them for that, yeah.
We're not attacking YMCA, but I got to tell y'all, we did invite them to come on this show. We tried to contact them, and we've gotten zero response. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
It seems that they've solicited everyone else but us for some reason. Maybe it's because they don't want any tough questions.
Yeah, well, they're trying to have their cake walk through there. So you want to show, I'm kind of maybe jumping ahead in the notes a little bit, but we ready for the Facebook post from their page?
Yeah, so today, as a lot of you guys know, today was kind of, everything was building to today. The City Council had placed the YMCA on the agenda, and I would say, Rex, you noticed, it was placed in the ceremonial matters, it wasn't placed as an ordinance like it was earlier in the year. Earlier in the year, it was placed on the agenda like for a vote,
mm-hmm.
And we've got that in another cut here in just a minute. Actually, like a contract, it was just slammed in there. Fortunately, Bubba Williams, I'm going to give him credit. He jumped up there and said, "No, wait a minute, we ain't even talked about this," and he shut it down.
Right.
Bubba Don deserves a lot more credit than maybe what he's gotten, in that he wasn't having none of it earlier in the year. I think it was March.
Yeah, and even today, it was pretty much one of those, let the PR session go through and all that, and then they'll consider this in the future. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the meeting, we'll show here in a second, when he announced that there wasn't going to be any commentary on it, he said that was in lieu of having further discussion about the issue in the future. So I'll give him a little credit for that too. But I got the YMCA Northwest Louisiana's Facebook page pulled up, and look, we're not faulting them for this at all. Hey, they're looking out for themselves. But today is an important day. If you want a YMCA in Bossier City, which again, I think I can speak for both of us, Duke. Neither one of us are against a YMCA in Bossier. We're against.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I seen them pictures of that pool and them people swimming in it, and I'm gonna tell you, I sink like a rock. But boy, I gotta tell you, it was making me want to go jump in the pool.
Yeah, I'll honestly probably join the thing, but I don't want $30 some odd million of taxpayer money spent on the YMCA. They need to do it like they did across the river. Like they've done twice in the last couple of years.
Rex,
go through private donations.
Wait a minute. Hold up, Rex. Hold up. there's already money for this. It's not going to cost you no taxes.
Yeah, it's not going to cost us anything because the $30 million is already there, according to Gary Lash on his Keel interview the other day and a couple of the poster interviews.
No, wait a minute. No, you got it right here on the screen. If you guys
Oh.
look right down there at the fine print, we understand the money has already been set aside for this project and will not require Bossier City residents to pay any additional taxes.
Wow, I'm going to kind of highlight that right there. So, folks, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let me get in on that. So, if you didn't know, if you're a taxpayer and a voter in Bossier City, did you know the money has already been set aside for this project? And it's not going to really cost you anything in taxes, right?
Money's already been set aside. Now, Rex, we are totally butchering our notes here, and we're going to be lost like a blind mule in the desert here in just a few minutes. And the folks watching, y'all are going to be laughing like, oh, God, you amateurs. Well, again, I'll preface, we are citizen journalists, so we're not professionals.
No, we're professional amateurs. No, I'm only about 2 check marks ahead of us because I'm right there in that Facebook post. Ha!
So either way, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that the YMCA, I mean, dude, they're acting like they're seasoned professionals selling this to the public. I mean,
they are. They had a PowerPoint presentation and a video. I mean, they got to win. They had a video and a PowerPoint for the city council. That's a sure sign they're going to win.
But it wasn't probably it wasn't their fault, but I got to tell you, I don't know. You were watching online like I was. I didn't hear any audio. And
I'll that's probably because their video used copyrighted music. Now, maybe they got the correct licenses to show it, but folks, even if you show a video in a public meeting like that, you can't just go grab whatever music you want. You have to have the license for it. That's the reason we don't use, 70s and 80s classic rock, even though we're both fans of it, in the show, because we simply can't do it. Now, maybe they did have the license. Maybe they didn't have the license for whatever they used to stream online, because that's a whole different scenario. But anyway, so that's why when they get to that video, you just see the video with no audio or underlying music.
Yeah, so the YMCA guys, look, they put up a hell of a fight on this thing.
Sure.
And I'm not even going to say that they're through with their fight, but they worked like seasoned politicians. And I got to tell you, I don't know any of these YMCA guys, but I'm going to tell you, they worked this thing excellent. I'm telling you, I think they were being coached. I think they had somebody coaching them.
Well, I think here, easy plausible explanation is they've had to go pitch this stuff before. They've had to pitch it to donors, multiple investors. This is not their first go round.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I understand there's a lot of different things. I understand that there are some people that kind of during this process got a little agitated. In fact, from cut one, they got their first letter of support. And,
really?
Being coached, we reported, and I think maybe we reported erroneously, but we reported that both David Montgomery and Bubba Williams went to the Bossier Parish School Board, and since that time, we've received information that isn't entirely accurate, that it was none other than the YMCA guy, Gary Lash, that went to the school board and pitched them that the money was already sitting down there and that all the councilmen were all on board, rah, 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 let's get moving.
Right.
And you had not the school board, but Mitch Downey pumps out this letter in support of the YMCA and the programs.
Yeah, and I can confirm, basically unknown to the rest of the school board members, I can confirm firsthand because, I got a phone call. And I think you did as well, probably.
I did that there were a lot of people that weren't in the know about this thing, and I think there's a lot of heartburn ultimately over this because a lot of people were told things that weren't 100% on this deal, and there's some buyer's remorse on supporting this thing.
Right. And Tim Euler brings up a good point. The YMCA is business and are trying to make money. They know how to win and make that money. They are professionals. Yes, they are, except when they have to shut down the YMCA that was over here in Bossier, and now they want a new one. But that's a whole other story. But I get your point, Tim. You're right.
So I think what happened was you got this letter duped out of the school board, and then from what I'm understanding is, or the superintendent, this letter was then used. It's almost like a pyramid.
Yeah.
This letter was used to go solicit other support. So let's move on down the road to the next bit of support that was sought after, and we'll move to the Bossier Chamber of Commerce. And it was brought to our attention that the Bossier Chamber of Commerce was out actively soliciting businesses to get on board. So,
wow.
Go ahead.
So the Bossier Chamber of Commerce, which is supposed to be pro-business, and they are, I guess, they're supporting using the government tax dollars. This is just insane. This is bass backwards.
Well, wait a minute. We don't 100% know their position yet.
Oh, that's true. Maybe I'm throwing them under the bus too early.
We don't know that they were advocating for using taxpayer dollars but this was our question. We just brought to their attention that the Bossier Chamber is actively advocating for the city of Bossier to spend millions of dollars on the construction of a facility to house a nonprofit YMCA in Bossier. First, and we ask the question, is it accurate? We want to know if that's true.
Yeah.
Are they in fact on board with it? And second, give us the reasons why the Chamber of Commerce believes that it's a proper debt, to be placed on the citizens of Bossier. Because again, a debt, the YMCA guys, and they said it again today, it's not a debt. Well, we're going to show you that it is a debt. Yeah. Any way you cut it, it's a debt. I don't care how you want to change it. I mean, that's political speak. It's a debt. It's freaking taxpayer dollars. Anyway, I'm going to stop.
Yeah, no matter how you spin it, the taxpayers are on the hook for it, for the building and, the property and all that. And like I said, hey, go get a private donor or some private donors. I mean, they raised $500,000 on the Shreveport side for the new one over at Camp Forbing. And part of that was also funded by selling the property to the new Kroger and the rest of that shopping center down there off Ellerby Road. That's how they're helping finance all that. They're literally doing the vast majority, if not all of that, through private donors over there. Why can't they do that here? Because our city council's sitting there with the cash in hand ready to hand them the bag of money.
Now, look, my wife was the chamber president for a while back or whatever, been heavily involved, and there's a story that I might want to tell. I think it's pretty entertaining, a political story involving Cedric Glover in the Chamber of Commerce. If you want me to tell it, I'll tell it after this. And it is hilarious. It is hilarious, Rex. But we did get a response back from Lisa Johnson with the Chamber to that.
Yes,
Rex,
we did. And
by all means.
Yeah, the font's a little small, so here we go. And for those of you listening on the audio version, so Lisa Johnson's response back was, "Hello, Rex and Duke. The Y made a presentation to our board of directors at our meeting this past Tuesday." Now, she wrote this on December the 2nd, so whatever day that was. "Due to healthcare concerns and being in the hospital, I am not sure the decisions made nor the next steps at this time. I will try to find out and get back with you all. Thanks for your reply." That was 5 days ago.
So for everybody watching, it's been cricket since then. We have not heard exactly what the Chamber of Commerce position is. But again, what we will tell you is that we've had people contact us to say that the Chamber was out basically shilling for the city to spend taxpayer dollars for the YMCA. And we have Lisa Johnson chiming in now. I appreciate that.
Oh, great. There she is. Perfect. She is there. And first of all, Lisa, sorry to hear that you were not feeling well or sick or, whatever the scenario was. We didn't realize that when we sent the email, but let's see what she says. And so I'm going to put Lisa's comment up here. Thank you, Lisa. Hello, all. I am here. I am recovering and working from home. There has not been any decision made nor any additional requests.
So either if there's been no decision made, if the board and the chamber has not taken a position, so either the anonymous information we have gotten is incorrect or not. So whoever shared the information with us, if you want to challenge Lisa Johnson, we would encourage you to, and the chamber to join in the show. Here she is, front and center, saying that that's not accurate. I'm
Well,
assuming that's what you say, and I don't want to put words in her mouth.
and I want to say this. So, the email correspondence was carbon copied to Jessica Hemingway and Barry Regula. I think Barry, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, is Barry the vice president, or what's Barry's title? I mean, I know him from the casino stuff, but I don't know what his title is with the chamber. But look, at least Lisa's here watching the show, trying to give us some updated information. Either one of the other two could have emailed back since she's, been under the weather. Lisa did say, Duke, she says, yes, the information you have received thus far is incorrect.
Thank you, Lisa, for
Thank you,
commenting
Lisa.
and putting that in there. So you see, people that we post information about. I mean, if you are watching our show and you want to correct the record, look at how that turns out.
Yeah, and again, thanks for that information. And Lisa says Barry is our chairman of the board. Thank you, Lisa. I couldn't remember that. And in full disclosure, I'm not a member of the chamber. So,
Okay. So do you want me to tell you my chamber story? That's
yes,
funny.
go ahead.
With Cedric Glover.
Yeah, look, years
I
ago,
love
let me add this a little bit in. So years ago, I had an interesting, let's just say, run-in deal with Cedric Glover, and I'll give him credit. He does respond. I've got emails from him at 10 o'clock at night before. So go ahead, Duke.
Okay. So you got to understand that everybody knows that I'm in the crawfish business, right? Had a crawfish farm active while I was a fireman and then after I retired. And so anyway, these comments, man, it distracts him. Okay.
Yes, it is. Go
so
ahead.
Anyway, so my wife was the president of the chamber, elected that year, what have you, and the chamber would always do these things where they would do these fly-ins to Washington D.C. and you would go and the chamber would lobby the senators and all that. And this particular year, the chamber, when Kara was the president, they went in to lobby. What's her name? The senator,
Landry?
Mary Landry. Yeah, Mary Landry. So I have a friend that was in this crawfish business as well, Smokey James, and we would work together with our crawfish. Well, so Cedric Glover had came over to get some crawfish from Smokey James, and he bought the crawfish, and he says to Smokey, he said, "Hey, you need anything? You need any help?" And Smokey says one morning, he says, "Hey." He says, "Yeah, I got this thing." He says, "I got this friend over in Bossier. He is a hardcore Republican, does crawfish. He's a Bossier fireman, and he's a friend of mine. And I want you to call him and kind of mess with him." It's like, all right. So I'm laying in bed one day, and my phone rings, and it's some number I didn't recognize. Well, I didn't answer it, so I got this message, and it's the mayor of Shreveport, Cedric Glover, and he says, "This is Mayor Cedric Glover from the great city of Shreveport, and I want you to know I'm over here at my good friend Smokey James getting all these Democrat lobsters, and I just wanted you to know you need to keep all them puny little Republican crawfish over there in Bossier." That was the message he left.
That's funny.
So fast forward till we go to this fly-in with the Chamber of Commerce to Washington, D.C. So we go into this meeting with Mary Landry, and who's sitting there but none other than Cedric Glover. And he didn't know me from Adam. So we're sitting there at the table, and, everybody, they've been dispensed with all the business. I was just tagging along with my wife, and I think, Lisa was there, and we're tagging along. Lisa may remember it, and Kara may remember it. And so I'm finishing up the conversation. They've done dispense with all the business, and they was like, "Was anybody got anything else about to conclude the meeting?" And I said, "Yeah, I got something. and this is for the mayor, and he, oh, okay, what you got? And you know how he is, and his big, deep voice. And I said, I think we got a problem with them Democrat crawfish over there in Caddo Parish and these Republican crawfish in Bossier Parish. And he looked across the table and he's like, that was you. And everybody else at the table were looking at us like we were absolutely crazy. But anyway, it was hilarious, and it broke the ice and made for a good meeting.
Yeah, I mean, he and I are polar opposites on most things, but I'll say this: he's a responsive, good guy, and he remembers stuff. There ain't no doubt about that. So you and your puny little Republican crawfish.
But that's a true story, and it happened, and it was a good deal. So where are we at? I lost track.
Well,
YMCA.
Yeah, and so let's see.
I think we had some information on a comparison to Ruston, in which I wasn't up to speed on this comparison to Ruston.
Well,
you kind of brought that up.
Yeah, there have been several comments made, and I'd have to go back through the meetings. I think one or two of the councilmen or some of the speakers have mentioned Ruston and the ball fields over there and the sports complex that Ruston built. And I think it was actually mentioned today, if I remember correctly, during the pitch campaign for the YMCA deal, as they were talking about, what they could bring in and what Ruston's done and other places and all that. But I just want to remind everybody that the way that Ruston paid for their sports complex down there, I think they had phase 1 and phase 2. So I'm just pulling this up from doing a little research. I hadn't lived in Ruston in, 20-something years. But anyway, they did it with a 3/4 cent moving Ruston forward sales tax that was passed back in 2016 to help fund phase 1 of their sports complex and other infrastructure improvements. So not just for the sports complex. And then they also did a 1.75% hotel and restaurant tax for phase 2 of the construction of that complex, which was passed in 2018. And I've got a link to a PowerPoint. I'm not really going to pull it up that, they used to kind of pitch at the meetings and to the public and all that. So I want everybody to be aware that when Ruston did theirs, they basically established 2 new taxes and raised them. And, of course, they did bond initiatives for that. And an interesting quote from one of the councilmen, he was the lone vote against the phase 2 tax because he said, right now I wish we get through phase 1. And, some of this he was the lone vote against moving forward with phase 2. He said some of the money that's supposed to be coming in from this tax, we're not getting enough in to pay for phase 1 right now. So this idea, the point of that is, first, before they talk about how great Ruston is, and look, Ruston is a great town. It's what I consider my hometown. It's where I spent half my childhood. But you need to understand that they had to raise taxes over there to do that, and the city owns that sports complex pretty much lock, stock, and barrel. The deal over here is the city's going to own the land, but the Y is going to reap the majority of the benefits. Now, I understand, the multiplier effect, and Lisa, I'm sure from the chamber, could chime in too on, what the draw for swim meets and all that means, and a lot of that was stated in the pitch presentation for the city council today. But there's nothing in the numbers so far that Gary Lash has put out that shows any payback or even a lease payment or anything to the city. So I'm wondering how accurate his projections can actually be. And I think there was some discussion maybe after the council meeting about that or something. I don't know.
Well, but Rex, I think it was pointed out by the Bossier Y that Bossier now had a poll that overwhelmingly was in support of that.
Well, you know what? So,
am I wrong?
No, you're correct. And man, okay. So I'm going to click over here and see if I can pull up the actual page.
Did you and I, were we evil Bossier supporters today or yesterday?
Well, yes, a little bit. And look, I got to take.
Are we on Santa's naughty list?
I got to take a little bit of the blame because I called you and said, "Hey, want to have a little fun?" So, I'm sorry, Hal. It was Duke and I that caused you the extra work yesterday afternoon. with your poll that you put up.
It wasn't because we wanted to be evil, Hal. I mean, we like you. You do a good job.
Right.
But we saw a flaw and we exploited it. We're acknowledging it. We're admitting it.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead, Rex.
Well, so basically, let me see if I can get this thing set over here. Hold on, let me get a mouse going. So basically, the deal is, Bossier now, and again, we like Hal over there. He does a great job of reporting and all that. But he had put up a poll on his website for people to go vote on, for or against. Let me see if I can get this thing done right. Either for or against the YMCA deal. And so you vote yes if you support the city paying for and owning the North Bossier YMCA, or no if you oppose it. And so as of right now, you can see there have been 787 votes cast, 65.31% yes, and no at 34.69%. Well, I went over there to go vote on the poll, but I noticed as soon as I hit submit and it refreshed, it jumped up 10 votes. And the percentages changed, but it was one for me, or one for no, because I voted no. Again, I'm not for it with taxpayer money. But the yes jumped way up, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right. So I just sat there and refreshed the page a couple of times, and the yeses were jumping up at an astronomical rate. Well, when I hit refresh, I also noticed that, I can just vote again and again. And again, I mean, he didn't even have it locked down at all. Now, as you know, I'm a tech guy. I'm also a web developer. I know the poll system he's using in his WordPress installation and all that. But it was just where it was a free-for-all for voting. And I'm sitting there watching the yeses climb up. And I'm like, we're not going to have any of that. We'll just make the noes climb up. So anyway, Duke and I had a little fun yesterday.
The YMCA was promoting this poll. You called me and you told me, and I was like, well, hey, let's fix these numbers because this is lopsided. 70 plus something percent to 20 something percent. That is way lopsided.
Yeah, lopsided. So anyway, let me roll the video for a second. Now there's no audio with this, so I'm going to talk us through it here. Let me make sure I'm not muted. So everybody should be able to still hear me. Okay, so as you can see right here coming up, there's some comments, and look, he's got some good commentary going. So here's the results. All right, yes votes, it was at 60% and 40% right there when I was recording this video. And so you hit refresh again, roll back up, and look, you can vote again. And so I just kept going through this sequence, and we had a little bit of fun with this. But then, Duke, I think you called me and said, hey, I can't vote anymore.
We had gotten it down to about 50-50 when I called you.
It was pretty close to about a 50-50 scenario. And apparently Hal figured out what was going on, and he must have blocked your IP and blocked mine, which I could still go in through my VPN and keep voting all day long, and I could have just kept messing with him, but I decided,
Danny Russell says y'all pulled a Brandon.
Yeah, basically, we're skewing the election. But here's the funny thing. So I said, let me refresh the page. Well, I noticed, and I got some video of it here, the votes were changing and dropping drastically as Hal was pulling votes back out of there to get the numbers back in line. So anyway, the point is that I'm going to stop that right there for a second. But anyway, the point is, and not to throw Hal under the bus or whatever, because we were having a little bit of fun with this, but the point is that this is strictly for marketing purposes. And if Hal's pro for the YMCA, that's great, and that's fine too. But I would hope that none of our city councilmen are naive enough to use this type of poll as any kind of basis for making their decision, because these types of things are too easy to manipulate.
And at the beginning, as you pointed out, Rex, you noticed the yeses jumping. Someone else was doing what you and I did right there at the beginning of this thing. So
yes, I can say with a fact somebody was skewing the yes votes, which is what prompted me, and I don't know why I've got November the 2nd up there, but that's why it prompted me to, hey, wait a minute, if they're going to do it one way, we're going to reverse it the other. So
yeah, and Rex, I will add into this additionally beyond this thing with Bossier now. So I know that multiple councilmen are reporting that they were barraged with emails in support of the YMCA.
Really?
But yeah, but what I'm also told is that multiple councilmen are telling people that they had verified those email addresses, that over 70% of them were outside of Bossier City.
Seventy
They
percent
weren't
of
in
the
Bossier City.
70% of the direct emails sent to councilmen were not
Correct.
residents of Bossier. What were they all from Shreveport?
Well, they didn't say where they were from, but they weren't from Bossier City.
Right.
So it goes back to our initial thing, was this was an organized campaign against, and I want to say, I don't know, I'm gonna throw a rock at YMCA and say that was not a fair way to go, a fair campaign against the councilman and arguably the mayor to try to push this thing through to get taxpayer dollars to fund your project. That's not how you do it. You know,
Well, that's how you run a political campaign, folks.
that's right.
Those are the exact same tactics.
Somebody was coaching them, and it was deliberate, the actions that were taken. There was not a lot of politics, wag the dog, as we like to say.
Yeah.
So
anyway, again, sorry, Hal, for jacking with you and costing you a little extra time there, but it was fun while it lasted.
It was. So moving on to one of my favorite groups that had weighed into the YMCA thing, and you know who that is.
The Who?
Not the Who. David Johnson says, point of order, Duke. Point of order.
All right. So who else? Yeah, who else has weighed in on the YMCA?
The Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee.
Oh, really? Well, let's see if I can get their Facebook page pulled up. Let's see if I can make this work. Let me shrink this down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I got their Facebook page pulled up. So, all right, so I got to say, we hadn't really talked about the PEC that much, and we need to do like a half an episode on what the PEC actually is, because they were called an organization today, and technically, an organization would be like the Republican Women, and while they're a good organization, the PEC, the Bossier PEC, there's a Republican one and a Democratic one. They're actually enabled by statute. You actually vote for the PEC members, by the way.
You do actually vote for them. You are elected just like police jurymen, councilmen, the same. And they represent the Republican Party in Bossier Parish. And I would argue, I am, in full disclosure, I am a member of the PEC. I have been for, I've lost count how many years. I was formerly, I think, the vice chairman was the highest I've reached as far as being on the executive board. But we had a meeting Monday, and we addressed this issue of the YMCA.
Yes, you did. So I've got the letter pulled up here on their Facebook page, and it was also emailed out, as a press release and all that. So let me read it right here for those of you listening. This is from the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. They oppose the Bossier City tax dollars paying for the YMCA. The official statement is the Bossier PEC opposes the use of tax dollars for the construction of a YMCA facility, but fully supports a privately funded YMCA project. The committee met on Monday, December the 6th for their regular meeting, and the project was one of several items discussed. The motion to oppose a YMCA paid for by tax dollars passed unanimously. Now, so what's the significance of the PEC, of the Republican PEC, opposing this? I mean, are the PEC members, and I'm being rhetorical here, are the PEC members just, average everyday people? Y'all just meet together? Is it a boys club, or what is it?
Well, I got to say, the last PEC election to be on this PEC was the most contested PEC elections in the history of the PEC. For whatever reason, tons of people wanted to be on the PEC. I mean, they campaigned, and it was like, a lot of times it's hard to find people willing to serve to be on the parish executive committee, but not this last time.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, I was a member of the PEC last term as well, and our old buddy, Mr. Gas Tax Doug Rimmer, beat me, which, that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Water under the bridge anyway, but new crowd, new group.
Right.
A lot of people, were recruited to run. They ran. They got in there. So fast forward to today, how things change, and there's a lot of deliberations on things that have taken place, and we had a unanimous vote to oppose this here. And you asked the question kind of about the makeup of the PEC,
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, I would point out that on the PEC, there's one school board member.
Mm-hmm.
There were two school board members till Shane Cheatham checked out of being a school board member to try to become a councilman. Wins, then decides to check out of that to become CAO, and then was forced to check out of that.
So we had and just got to make fun of Shane for a second because he's, I guess technically he might still be in Three Amigos status. But anyway, he was a councilman-elect, then not a councilman-elect. He was an almost CAO, but then a CAO in limbo, and now he's back to ordinary citizen activist. How about that?
I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to call him boss.
Okay.
I'm just going to call him boss.
Yeah. All right. So the PEC is not just, a set of elected Republicans.
There's 3 police jurymen
right.
and Rex. Shockingly to everybody watching, y'all got to understand this. We've also got a mayor on the PEC.
Wait a minute. Low Walker's on the PEC?
No, he's not no mayor. He's retired, dead and gone. Got whooped by Tommy Chandler. Remember Tommy Chandler ran for the PEC, ran for State Central Committee. He even posted a picture of him with Donald Trump 100 years ago. Don't you remember?
Oh,
Low Walker didn't have a picture with Donald Trump.
Wait a minute. You're saying Tommy is still on the PEC?
Tommy's still on the PEC. Yeah.
Isn't there a little ish?
Tommy Chandler is the vice chairman of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. Did not the 90 to 100 plus people, not counting the other platforms that are watching, not know Tommy Chandler is the vice chairman of the Republican Party of Bossier Parish?
Wait a minute. How many meetings has Tommy been to?
Well,
how many PEC meetings?
I don't keep count of all the PEC meetings, but what I will say is the last PEC meeting he attended, he came there and said that he was going to resign, and he was talking something about the city charter had some kind of something that said that he couldn't be the mayor and also sit on any other board or elected office or something like that. That might be cut 10. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, let me look and see here if I can pull cut 10 up. But that's getting borderline back to maybe a dual office holding type scenario there, maybe. Let me go
I don't know.
Cut 10.
I don't know. I'm just pointing out what he came to the PEC meeting and pointed out. He came to the PEC meeting and said he was going to resign. And as you remember, he ran for that PEC seat against somebody who's been on the PEC. In fact, he ran against Ann Price, one of the people who actually founded the Republican Party of Bossier Parish, the PEC, one of the original founders. He ran against her.
Wow.
Of course, he's got name ID and he beat her, but he came to a meeting and said he was going to resign and, even said that he thought probably Ann Price should be the person to replace him. But yet he still hasn't resigned as of this day. He's holding the seat for some unknown reason.
Well, and it's not like this is a huge deal. I mean, PEC members are not paid, or anything like that. But
nope.
But this is borderline dual office. And you're right there in section 4.03, we've got pulled up on the screen for those that are listening and not watching. The mayor shall be a qualified elector of the city and shall have resided continuously for 1 year immediately preceding the day of the general election, blah, blah, blah. He or she shall hold no other elective or appointive public office or salaried employment except that of notary public, or as a member of the National Guard or Reserve component of the state of Louisiana. Well, Yeah, a PEC member is an elective position or an elective office.
Shane Cheatham says, I am a realtor full time in case anyone needs to sell a house.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. But Ashley Bullock points out he also said he was going to change things when he got elected. We just didn't know the change was going to be more lawsuits against the city.
Uh,
Well,
like my
is this
grandmother
going?
used, like my grandmother used to say, "Open mouth, change foot."
Is this going? Are we going to start having Bossier Watch shows where we and Tommy Chandler said? Because I also remember somebody saying something about a forensic audit of the books of Bossier City. What happened to
Wonder,
that?
wonder when that's gonna. He'll have to go through King David, and that'll never happen.
Am I right, guys watching the show? I mean, there's 90 plus people watching. Was that accurate? Was that not articulated in the campaign that there would be an audit of the city? A forensic audit, not just the one that you regularly do by the same guys that rubber stamp everything, but something additional. Did y'all not understand that?
Ashley Lee says the first day he took office, forensic audit. If anybody's got, a video clip or, a campaign mailer or something like that, feel free to send it to us. That's going to be a long list of things that were supposed to be done that weren't done.
So Tommy's still holding the PEC seat. We would love for Tommy to explain why he hasn't found time to resign from the PEC or the State Central Committee holding those seats. We have our ideas as to why, and I would imagine that it's probably from people who are counseling him, the same people who probably counseled him to fire NTB or go that route. But you know what? We'll see how that turns out, I guess.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, as much as King David is a stickler for the city charter, he's been kind of quiet the last couple of meetings. Maybe he'll be vocal about this. Who knows?
Maybe so. He's a Republican as well. And, the thing was back to this PEC meeting. So at the PEC meeting, everyone there deliberated on this issue. And it was unanimous that the conclusion that everybody came to that, taxpayers shouldn't be footing the bill to build some facility for some agency or private, whatever. I mean, that's not the role of government.
Right. And, to the PEC's credit, again, I'm pulling up the letter here, they oppose it. And again, that committee is made up of obviously fellow Republicans, but also fellow government officials in other offices and former, and also, I think, a couple of business members, business owners, including yourself. And I think, isn't David Womack on the PEC?
David Womack is on the PEC.
Yeah, I thought so.
And David Womack was present, and he added, he definitely added to the debate on the subject, not the Tommy subject, but the subject of the YMCA,
Right.
as well as the bonds and the David was very constructive on things, and I appreciate David being on the PEC. He brings an angle that maybe a lot of us non-contractors bring. He does.
Well, Tim brought up a point, says PEC against YMCA equals Chandler against YMCA. Not necessarily, Tim. Chandler's been a little wishy-washy. He did issue that statement about the money, but if you kind of read the statement, it's got a few curves in it. But we'll see. And just so everybody knows, again, we'll talk about the PEC some more and all that, but the PEC is a public body. Technically, the meetings fall under open meetings laws, so,
Yeah, and moving along, so that brings us to the council meeting today. So for all of you watching, that was the big thing. This was the what do you call it? The grand finale was today.
Right.
The big show.
So let me switch screens over here, and folks, we're not going to go through the whole meeting, and honestly, it wasn't that long, but we do have some highlights that we want to talk about. So, Duke, if you want to take controls, if you're ready on your end, since you had kind of flagged most of these.
Yeah, so actually, Sisung was present, and a lot of you may not realize it and understand. And I'm not going to go through the YMCA portion because more or less the YMCA guy gave his presentation, and wasn't even a question asked.
No.
Now,
Now let me play one part of this real quick. The reason that a question wasn't asked was because right here towards the very beginning of the meeting, Bubba Don Williams says there was going to be no comments allowed. I think he says no speakers here, but he meant comments about the guest or whatever. So let's actually listen to that. It's just a couple of seconds here.
I was waiting for the council members to get here about speakers today, and the majority said, we're not gonna have speakers today. We're gonna wait till this item is on the, agenda before we have speakers.
Now, I'm pretty sure he meant comments about the speakers or additional speakers other than those that were listed as the guests, because of course, the guests did get up there and speak.
that's right, and I don't think he was trying to do anything funny. I don't think that at all. I think that he was trying to both be nice, businesslike, the whole nine yards. But and in fact, it ends up showing itself later on when he had Sisong and I think it was Government Solutions or whatever, those guys talking about the bonds, and he says, "Anybody got any questions?" And they didn't meet. I don't think they meant to ask any questions, but he asked the question, and Chris Smith, again, he just jumped right out there and said, like, "Oh yeah, I got a question." I mean, it's like he's in the classroom and he's the young little kid. He raises his hand. "Yep, I got a question."
Well, and look, we don't really want to sound like cheerleaders for Chris, and if he does something, stupid or silly, we're going to call him out on it too. And of course, he's welcome to call us out too. But at least Chris asked. You're right. He asked questions instead of just sitting there like they've had a walking quorum beforehand and their votes are already made up before anything ever happens. All right. But anyway, with that said, so go ahead, Duke. You can take control if you want.
Yeah. So I am going to jump to the. I got a Government Solutions. Government Solutions was front and center. Now, if a lot of you may not know who Government Solutions is, and we're going to jump ahead and we're going to get off the YMCA because obviously nothing moved forward. The only other thing I would point out on the YMCA is maybe the terminology that was used for this presentation, and the fact that one word would dictate whether or not this would be able to be brought up at the next council meeting, consideration or hearing, So I think the terminology used was consideration. And when you use one term, that enables it to be brought up at the next council meeting for discussion if a council member feels so moved to bring it up. I got to move in close to my mic. You hear me good?
Yeah, I hear you fine. I was just adjusting the camera a little bit.
Okay, but the YMCA stuff, we all knew. I hate to say we all knew because the YMCA was putting up an organized fight.
Sure.
I believe they were counseled. And we didn't go completely into everything that we know on that. But more importantly, at the same meeting that YMCA is coming up here and proposing that the city spend taxpayer dollars to build this structure, and they were saying that it wouldn't be debt, it's money that's already been appropriated. I would go back to and ask, who is it that convinced the YMCA that there's money already set aside and the taxpayers wouldn't be going in debt or owing money on this?
Yeah,
who told them that? Who told them that?
The last movement I saw was this spring when King David was going to bring up the ordinance for what were they going to call it, the recreation center or whatever. But that never actually got brought up because there was opposition to it, and it was on the agenda, but no movement happened on it. Now, that is still posted. And so you can see that where they had a breakdown. I think it ended up being just a hair under 30 million, but again, no action was ever taken. So folks, help us out here unless we missed something. When did the city council actually appropriate $30 million, give or take a little, for the YMCA?
Yeah, and conveniently, you had a report from the Tourism Commission all of a sudden today wanted to show up. And, you had all of a sudden your people who do all your bonds, remember the famous quote, "We don't shop," but you had Government Solutions or Government Consultants, you had Sisung, and all those guys right here about ready to speak. And in fact, so I'm going to go ahead and play this now, the first comments, because I got to tell you, these guys and this guy here talking, Toots,
Yeah.
this freaking guy could, as the saying goes, sell ice cream to Eskimos. I mean,
Yes.
this freaking dude sounded good. I wish the King David would have had this guy up here back earlier in the year, because he might have convinced me to be on his team on this whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, they were good. So, yeah, go ahead and hit play when you're ready, and let's
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be before you, especially after recent years. It'd be good to be back here again. Just wanted to have with me Ken Scheck-Snyder with Citizen Securities and Charlie Sides with Stiefel. I'm Sean Toops with Government Consultants. We're a registered municipal advisory firm. Just wanted to provide for you today a quick update on the proposed bond issues that you authorized some time back. It's been a little while since you did that, so we kind of wanted to provide you an update, and certainly glad to answer any questions you may have. First, I'll reference you approved a refinancing of some existing debt. Just wanted to give you an update there. The market's been bouncing around, but it appears to have improved a little bit lately, so those bonds are looking pretty good today. Both of the refundings we're proposing would save you about $6 million. It's not really a good time to go into the market because it's the end of the year, but we expect that shortly after the first of the year, we'll be back to you with another update and be looking to take advantage of that savings and save the citizens and the council some money there. So
now, he's fixing to make a point, and I want everybody to listen real close at the words that he uses right here. Because so far, everything he's saying, it sounds good, and I got to tell you, it's going to continue to sound really good. Listen right here close.
that one's looking good. The other issue that you authorized would be a continuation of your capital plan. You have some bonds rolling off, so there's some ability to issue some new bonds without raising any additional revenues. Again, furthers your capital plan. I guess maybe a little bit of history. We've been working with you guys for some time, and a lot of you have been around, but for those of you that haven't, this started back in around 2006. The city had been going through a pay-as-you-go program to keep up with capital, and obviously was not keeping up. The capital backlog had grown to somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million, and obviously the city was growing as it continues to. So they were looking for a way to kind of catch up on your capital needs. We were able to leverage some of the existing money and issue some bonds and catch up with that. We've continued over the years, every few years, to do that, which has allowed Bossier to really stay ahead of its capital planning. I think it's apropos that the Tourism Commission was here because a lot of the events you saw there and a lot of the activity that's coming to Bossier is a direct result of the fact that you have the infrastructure in place to support it. We all have lots of clients that we're seeing around the state that are struggling to keep up with their infrastructure needs. Bossier is the perfect example. I think I told the mayor this after he came on board, is that when people kind of ask what we do, a lot of times I use Bossier as an example because it's an example of what prudent fiscal planning and operations and budgeting, as well as some advanced capital planning and smart issuance of debt can do for you. It really allows you to stay ahead of the game, keep ahead of your infrastructure, keep up with your growth. It's why people want to come to Bossier. It's why economic development comes to Bossier. So, and you've been able to manage to do all that without raising taxes. There's lots of other folks, municipalities, and I won't mention names, that are struggling to keep up with infrastructure, and not only that, have no revenue to do it with. Because as they get further and further behind, the maintenance needs, the demands of operations, in some cases just simply waste, has not allowed them to provide the infrastructure they need. So anytime they're going to do infrastructure or issue bonds, they have to go back to the voters for taxes. So as a result, they end up with higher taxes and less infrastructure. You're in the opposite.
Now, Rex,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you a question. We watch the council meetings pretty regular. I mean,
Right.
we're not perfect. We do miss things, but I want to ask you and everybody watching, the 90 plus people watching, can any of you tell me what our plans for the next 10 years are?
Hold on a second.
Am I hearing cricket? What are What are the plans? You just heard the money man tell you capital plans, infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
What
I,
are our
I can,
are our
I,
plans?
I can tell
I'm
you one
wondering.
plan. The plan is to build a YMCA.
Well, I'm not talking about YMCA. No, I'm talking about infrastructure, and I'm talking
Oh,
about
all right. Your wife brought up
capital
a point.
planning. I'm talking about the infrastructure of our city. What is our plans?
Closing Shed Road.
That's that's not a plan. That is a reaction to an event. So, but again, to everybody watching, is anybody watching, including councilmen, because we know y'all watch both anonymously and on YouTube, and we can see your YouTube comment. I mean, tell us about the capital plans. So you just borrowed or sought to borrow an additional $75 million. What is the plan?
Hey, maybe the almost CAO guy knows. He was kind of hip to a little bit of information there before before he got kicked to the wind by Tommy.
So the government solutions guy, he's sitting here saying, look, Bossier City, y'all done a good job. You're rated as high. You've done a good job. You've had plans. You followed your plans, and so you're in a good position. That's what he's saying. But he's saying it because you've had plans, right?
And he's saying it because he gets paid to advise cities on how to borrow more money.
Well, that may be the case, but
and I don't fault him for that. I'm a capitalist, but let's just be frank. These guys don't do this stuff for free.
So if we have plans for infrastructure and we have plans for the $75 million in additional debt that we're going to incur on behalf of the citizens of Bossier City, shouldn't it tend to reason that anybody watching this show, so live right now, there's 90 plus people watching. Anybody tell us what the plans are. Now, I know somebody's going to be smart and they're going to pop off and say nanofiltration. There you go, nanofiltration. You know what? And you may be right, but have we heard that for sure? Can anybody confirm as a matter of fact that is what the $75 million is for?
Well, all right. So is there, and I don't know, I hadn't looked it up, and I'm like sitting here on my phone now, Googling now, is there a master plan for Bossier City? And folks, you have to forgive me. Honestly, I just started really paying closer attention to Bossier City politics in the last couple of years, and really the last, really close to last year since we've been doing this. But is there a master plan?
Rex, I'm going to say to you, there was a plan. Is there a new revised plan? I don't know. Lisa Friday Johnson's posting something up there. Maybe that is the new revised plan. I don't know. I hadn't reviewed it.
Okay, so she's got the 2026 capital project plan bid. So I can't click on that with my screen right now because it'll take us off of this. But let me pull that up over here on my phone. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Look at there. She is being a high achiever tonight.
No kidding.
So, moving.
Yeah, what's our next topic? I'm over here on the phone trying to dig through information real quick.
At the 48:22 mark, so Chris Smith proceeds to jump in, and he's going to ask these guys a question. Now, we already saw that there wasn't no questions being asked.
And I want to point out, these three guys are looking right now like, hey, wait, somebody just asked us a question.
David Johnson just, dude, he wrote a book.
Oh, wow.
I can't even read all that. Holy good.
Well, that's okay. It'll be in the comments on Facebook if anybody wants to go look at it. But it looks like a synopsis or the introduction to the plan. Maybe the one that Lisa linked in.
Yeah, and I'm glad Lisa shared that because I haven't heard it at a city council. I haven't been able to review what she linked, but I haven't heard that at a council meeting. like these guys getting up there and breaking it down, these guys did a good job.
Yeah, they did.
They did. I got to tell you, like again, like I said earlier, I mean, if you want somebody to sell ice cream to an Eskimo, I mean, you freaking need to hire these guys. David Montgomery is probably right on that count when he said we don't shop. That these guys are good. Okay, no, I'm not on the David Montgomery Zamboni train, but they did a hell of a job. But jumping ahead, Chris Smith asked a question, and he asks, what all is factored into the bond rating? So I'm going to roll with that.
And I'm just new, so I'm just trying to learn all the ins and outs. What all is kind of factored in when they put those bond ratings together?
Everything. So I know that's kind of a broad answer, and some of you guys have been part of the rating process, but they will look at obviously your financial position, your financials, your fund balances, or your cash flow, your, how much debt you have, how much coverage you have on your debt, what you're using the funds for, what kind of projects. They'll look at general demographics. Are you a growing community? Do you have economic growth in the community? Non-financial factors. They'll put all that together. They'll compare you to your peers. So it's kind of a gumbo of everything.
Right. Okay.
And
does adding new debt, does that affect that bond rating any, or as long as we are still meeting the metrics of everything else?
It can actually have a negative or a positive impact, or have no impact, just depending on, again, what you're issuing debt for, how much capacity you have to issue the debt. Does the issuance of debt put a strain on your financials? Are you having to raise new taxes? So historically, it hasn't been negative for you because you've consistently.
Oh, I think I may have stopped it by accident. I'm sorry. Whoops.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, he's articulating that basically, they don't 100% know. It could go either way. You add new debt. I mean, you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But obviously, when anybody out there, if you go to apply for a house, I mean, the more debt you got, the less you qualify. And, the more loans you paid off and the better your credit, the more you will qualify for, debt to income. Those are all factors that consider into here. Well, I mean, the picture that's being painted here is that Bossier City proactively, and at some point, and we may get to this here in a second, 15 to 10 years ago, had a plan, and they proceeded to leverage debt to be able to address the infrastructure needs that Bossier City need. To that end, I would say that was wise. Now, moving forward to today, is spending $37+ million on a YMCA, is that planning and infrastructure that helps here in this?
Well,
I don't
know. Let me give you a little quick feedback, because Lisa Johnson, of course, has been very helpful. So she's posted some more information, and I kind of joking, but maybe half serious, told her we were going to have to join the chamber as Bossier Watch at this rate, as much as she's helping us out tonight. But I did pull up this 5-year capital projects plan, which she also said is posted on the city's website. And I'm looking right here at this, at their summary on, I don't know, it's about page 2 or 3. And they've only got $1.9 million in their plan for 2022 for parks and recreation. I'm going to say, and like $1.7 million the next year, $1.75 the next year. So I'm going to say they're probably going to have to adjust that once they have the new Bossier City Zamboni Driver YMCA built and ready.
Okay, wait a minute. All right, Lisa, love you, but we're talking about maybe $2 million here, and we're talking about doing bonds of $75 million with no plans to where we're going to spend it. And I don't make that up, that there's no plans. In fact, we've got a letter from the mayor essentially acknowledging that there's no plans, and he says, even though we don't have any plans, that doesn't mean we have to spend it. So, I mean, in all fairness, I'm going to say that just because 1.9. I mean, that ain't a drop in the bucket here.
No, and again, I'm just scanning through this 5-year capital projects plan. Again, thanks, Lisa, for linking that in the comments there. Just going through it real quick. So maybe, I mean, obviously they can adjust the plan. These are just estimates and projections. I mean, they can adjust this any point they want unless there's some charter restriction on it.
Well, anyway, moving along, the $1 million question here, and the 90 plus people, not counting what's on the other platforms watching, they're wondering, so did we have a Zamboni sighting? Did King David chime in?
Yes, he
Was
did.
there something?
And I got to say, he must have caught a cold running that Zamboni around the latest hockey game, because he seems like he's feeling a little under the weather. He actually went and got a box of Kleenex, so, we wish him well. And next time, wear more clothes while you're on the Zamboni trying to run over John Settle.
Well, as you know, he did chime in, and we would be remiss if we didn't, talk about, his commentary, in which I got to tell you, this makes 2 meetings in a row that he has been productive, I would say, as a councilman, and I will give him a little bit of compliments. But
it's almost like he might have invited these guys. But I'm just speculating.
Who knows? But let's roll with it. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah.
Something I'd like for you to share with the audience and the council. We made those trips to the rating agency, and what was, to me, one of the resounding themes that they heard.
Now, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to jump ahead. He's talking about we made those trips. It's interesting that he points that out, talking about the trips, because we kind of went down that lane just a little bit in cut 4. We chased those things down on trips. And interestingly, he's right. There have been some trips over the years.
Yeah, let me see if I can get cut 4 up here real quick. Bear with me just a second. I was engrossed in this 5-year capital projects plan. There's actually some detail in that stuff. Let me get cut 4 in here. Yeah, there we go. I'll leave that up a little bit large there for folks to see. So, City Council travel expenses by employee for 2010. This is 10 pages long.
Look at that. David Jones had more travel expenses than David Montgomery in 2010.
Well, if it was a competition, David, you won that. You won that round.
So, wait a minute, back up. I'm going to say that David Jones achieved higher than David Montgomery on that council trip.
Yeah, he did. Good for
him. Well, wait a minute. No, they got different dates. 9/8 of 2010, 9/15 of 2010. So you have 2 different trips. I'm not sure how that works, but David Jones exceeded David Montgomery.
Yeah, one went north, one went south. Who knows? Maybe David's watching. I don't know if he is tonight or not. Maybe he can kind of clear it up if he remembers. All right, so here's page 2. This is registration fee for an LMA convention, airfare for bond rating meetings in New York, travel expenses for bond rating meetings.
Wait a minute. David Montgomery is high achieving in that year as well, too, right?
Well, he just toasted them all. $3,368.07 worth.
New York bond rating meetings. Who else went to that bond rating meeting that year?
Good question. That's a good question. Doesn't really look
Rogers
like.
Didn't. Doesn't look like David Jones went. Irwin, he's been there for 18 years.
Some registration fees, but no travel expenses or anything like that. Wow, I wonder if I bet he had a good time up there eating a steak dinner in New York.
Larry Hennessy, we got to talk about you. Old Lions Club, $65. What the heck's going on with you?
All right, so let's switch over here. Travel expenses. Here's another conference. Let's see. That's Jeff Darby, Larry Hennessy, and David Jones. I'm just rolling. There. Yeah, I'm just rolling through these. Wait, Tim Larkin.
2013. Wait a minute. Whoa, back up. What was that? 2014, 2013. Yeah.
2013 looks
all around.
Yeah, let's see. All right, there's 2014. Okay. David's in the lead again.
David in the lead again. So
looks like he likes going to New York.
2 or 3 years, he's high achieving, right? He even went to New Orleans.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, meeting in New Orleans, the Toplin's bonding trip to New York City. No wonder he knows so much about the bonds and doesn't want to shop them around. He's getting to go to trips to New York. Okay, here we go.
Looks like we're losing some people when we're actually exposing some inside detail and putting it out there.
Yeah, we're still got 80 people. That's not bad.
Yeah, well, there's a few. We were pushing 100, and so we. What? Wait a minute, 2016.
Wait a minute. Sexual harassment in the workplace training course.
Well, no, I see something else. What's that underneath there? Sisung.
Oh, yeah, reimbursement for travel expenses to a Sisong meeting. $1,100? Aren't they just like in Baton Rouge or somewhere?
They are. So David makes that trip as well too. So they were there today at the council meeting.
Yeah, imagine that.
That was the big guy on the right.
Yeah, let me. Well, that's about as big as I can actually make that screen right there. So anyway, sorry for the small type, folks, but that's what it says. All right.
King David, high achieving again.
Yeah, here we go. LMA convention in Shreveport. Oh, wait. There we go. 2017. Travel expenses for meeting with Sisong in New Orleans again. King David, $828.
High achieved again.
Wow.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about 18? I'm dying to know. What about 18?
Here's another one. Travel expenses for meeting with Sisong Investments, $1,476. These must be week-long meetings. What hotel is he staying at? This is crazy.
It looks as though Jeffrey partook in going to New York.
Yeah, he did too. Looks like he went up there with King David.
Him and David both went together. But dang, Jeff was more expensive than David. How did that happen? I don't know.
Maybe he bought David a couple of dinners.
Maybe so. Maybe he bought one night.
Yeah. Let's see. We had travel expenses regarding amoebas. Was that when they had the brain-eating amoebas or something in the water system or something?
Good gosh, I don't know. Maybe they were. What's her name? Had the movie, with doing the water and.
Well, mind blank now. She came over for the. Camp Minden deal too. Well, sort of. Anyway.
Yeah, they had the movie. Okay, everybody watching. Here's the trivia for the night. Who was the little lady that had the movie about her that did all the contamination of the water supply for those cities regarding that manufacturing stuff?
Yeah, what's her name? The redheaded girl did a movie about it. Oh, we'll think. Oh yeah, Aaron Brock. Aaron
Brockovich.
Aaron Brock.
Yes.
Yeah.
So David Montgomery was on top of Aaron Brockovich right there.
Yeah, I should know that because she's a hero of the left-leaning tree huggers. Hey, I gotta admit, we were all on the same side in the Camp Minden deal, but that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, so the point.
Tim Mueller says you're gonna get run over, guys.
We're gonna get run over and then backed over by the Zamboni. All right, so this just shows that David likes to travel. Now, is he the only one traveling this much, or is this just for? No, there were other people, so this was a request for all of it, right?
Well, this is from 2010 for all of it, from 2010 to present. And,
that's why the rest of the councilmen look up to King David so much. He is well traveled.
Yeah, but the point is it seems like he is the only one that is dug into on the bonds. Is he the guy that has been delineated as the person who tells everyone else what they have to do or what they should do on all the bonds? Is it his responsibility?
Well, if I was getting to fly around and eat steak dinners and stay at apparently nice hotels, I'd be all on the side of bonds and not shopping them around either. I mean, not saying there's anything wrong with it. These are legit expenses, and obviously they are, but, Anyway. All right. Where are we? I am completely lost in our notes here.
I am completely lost as well, too.
Cut 4. So we've already mentioned some of this other stuff in our notes before, but I want to encourage everybody because I kind of got stuck in these projections. The the 5-year capital projects plan. I know this is, going off on a tangent here, but I want to encourage everybody to go read those. We'll need to bring those up maybe on the next episode and kind of review some of those. Okay. So let's see. Are we going to move on to let's see, Ordinance 30 of the $30 million recreation center?
Well, I think that we can wrap it up. Let's jump down to Shane McWilliams,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are wanting to know what's going on with this police department crap. And guys, I got to tell y'all, this past week there was a whole hell of a lot of stuff happen, and I don't know what's up or what's down, but what I will tell y'all, and we promised you in the beginning of the show that we were going to share you anonymous pictures, we were going to share you anonymous emails.
Yeah.
And have we already shared the anonymous documents? I think we have.
Not for the Shane McWilliams stuff, I don't think.
Yeah. Whew.
No,
Boy.
we haven't. So we need to do this quickly.
Yeah. So
There's a lot.
Let's go straight up to cut 11 may be wrong.
Let's see. I can tell you cut 11 is the email.
The first anonymous email that we get pertaining to the Shane McWilliams after you have the civil service. Rex, do you want to articulate what happened at this civil service board meeting and kind of what we read between the lines?
Yeah, because I was there and got there, about 15 or 20 minutes early. Zamboni Brother Jacobs was there. He came in just basically wearing work boots and casual clothes, and sat in the front row. They came in, basically called the meeting to order, did roll call and all that, went straight into executive session for 10 or 15 minutes or so, came out of executive session and announced that because of a pending lawsuit with the city of Bossier that was filed and a temporary restraining order, that they were going to delay or postpone any further action, involving that hearing or whatever till, I'm not quoting them, but basically till they got all that sorted out, and that was the end of the meeting.
Yeah, so after the end of that meeting, our email started blowing up.
Yes.
Our Proton mail just started exploding. And the first email that we got was this one right here.
Yeah, and I know the font's a little small, so I'm going to kind of read at least the highlights of it, folks. So give me just a second here.
And as well, that benefits the folks that are on the...
Yeah, that are audio only and listening, or maybe you've got this on YouTube and, or Facebook and just listening while you're doing other stuff around the house. But this email says, this is what the police officers are dealing with daily. Chandler, Jacobs, Estes, B.J. Sanford, witch hunt. They have been scouring since July the 6th to find something on Chief McWilliams. They have torn his computer apart, searched everything he's had, inventoried everything issued to him, and this was his issued vehicle up until July the 6th. Now look at what they're attempting to conspire. Now they're requesting the state police do a download of the vehicle and try to get an investigation started for malfeasance because they claimed he didn't turn in all issued equipment while on leave. Louisiana State Police declined to investigate everything, citing he has every right to have city-issued equipment. How wrong can a person be treated? What about majority of other officers who know this is wrong? Are their rights irrelevant like Chief McWilliams? So that's a little counter, though, to what Tommy told us in that press release last Friday or whatever, that, he didn't mention anything about the state police declining to do an investigation. He just basically said they were wrapping up their criminal investigation. But kind of funny he didn't mention if, we haven't confirmed yet, if the state police declined to even investigate.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything, in that regard. But what I will say is, in addition to that email, we received anonymous images and pictures.
Yes, we did. And there's one of them right there.
And we see this in countless emails talking about this vehicle and that this vehicle was involved in a wreck And we even at one point we had an anonymous email saying that they were going to send us information pertaining to when this vehicle was involved in an accident that reached the level of the sheriff's office, but yet to date we haven't received anything from, I'll just say, Benton pertaining to an accident. So but we did receive these pictures, but these pictures.
Well, it's not like these are secret squirrel pictures. That vehicle is parked out there by City Hall and the police department, right?
That's what we're told. And the pictures, if you scroll through them, I think there's multiple pictures all in one, or is that just that one picture?
No, that's just the one picture.
Oh,
I can grab the others real quick. It'll take me a
yeah.
second here.
Well,
So, and look, I want to say this because where is it?
we had countless.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Michael Ferris brings up a point. He says Chief McWilliams was given an assignment by the mayor and he refused to comply. Michael, I'm guessing you're referring to the assignment to basically be the front desk person. Is that correct?
I think that's what he was implying, and to Michael Ferris's point, I would agree with him. Is that insubordination if Chief McWilliams didn't comply and go there? Yeah, that is. And to our knowledge, there was an investigation of that, and the Internal Affairs investigator came to the conclusion that it was unfounded. He has the ability of all the facts. We don't. We're armchair quarterbacks. My opinion is if he didn't go, yeah, that is insubordination. But again, we're not the investigator. We are not apprised of all the facts. So, we're not the arbiter of justice here.
Yeah, we're just sharing information. And look, I've said this before. I don't know Shane McWilliams other than knowing he's the police chief and have just met him in passing, maybe once or twice. I only know Chris Estes because he's the other police chief now. And at one of the South Bossier luncheons that Bamberg and Shane do and all that, he came up and spoke to me and was very cordial and introduced himself and all that. And so I'm not really picking either side. It's just that this seems an awful lot like a dadgum witch hunt. So I'm trying to find these pictures. So give me just a second, Duke.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'll go back to the fire department. There was a time when I refused to shake the fire chief's hand. And the reason I refused to shake Sammy Halpin's hand because I thought he was a dishonorable man. I still believe that to this day. He is not a man of honor. And as a result of me refusing to shake his hand, he took the position to transfer me from the busiest fire station in Bossier City to the slowest fire station in Bossier City and the most remote, which was out by Riverbend Subdivision. And as the fire chief, I will acknowledge he had that right to do that whenever he so chooses to do that. And I abided by his order. I went to that station and I happily complied with his order. Same thing, the mayor is the appointing authority. If he gave the police chief the order to count rocks on the roof because the police chief looked at him as if he didn't have a hair on his head, you know what? The police chief has to comply with that order. That is what the chain of command, that's how it works. And if he didn't do it, that's insubordination. So how the investigator that supposedly investigated this charge came to that conclusion, I'm dying to know how he came that was not insubordination. I don't know, but I will agree with you, Rex. At this point, this thing is starting to stink like a dead fish all the way around. It really is.
Yeah, I mean and that's the biggest problem that I have with this issue. You know, if Tommy was elected the mayor, if he wants to appoint a new police chief, then that's his prerogative to do that. But to not be able to fire somebody right and turn it into a 6-month long soap opera basically appears to be a witch hunt. Again, I have no problem with Chris Estes being the police chief. I have no problem with Shane McWilliams being the police chief. But, you know, come on, we have 2 police chiefs in this town because the mayor can't get it right. And now it's beyond Thunderdome, so there's no backing down from it. And I pulled up these pictures, so I've got one here. This is either odd graffiti or I'm going to assume somebody's trying to show damage to the vehicle.
Yeah, and there's numerous pictures. We were sent countless pictures with all this, I'll describe it as artwork on the vehicle. And I think it's basically pointing out damage that was incurred on the vehicle. And I think the point that was trying to be made was that this vehicle was in an accident, and we heard rumors about potentially that this vehicle that was assigned to the former police chief was taken to a remote repair facility to be repaired, and it was repaired without a report to the city, accident report, or anything of that nature. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, if that's inaccurate. I don't know. That's just what kind of is put out there. Obviously, if it was, and if the mayor and the city attorney, if they know for a fact that it was, they should be able to show that. You know?
Yeah, and look, I want to say this too because I zoomed in on this picture. So this little, looks like Nike logo, dark gray mark is actually a reflection, okay? What they have circled are some scuff marks. Now, that could buff out. I could hand buff that out. That could have, I don't know what happened to this vehicle.
Well,
if they're trying to say, if they're trying to say Shane caused this damage, but this could have happened in a Walmart parking lot.
But again, I'll go back to that comment that it smells like a dead fish here. I mean,
right.
there's something not right here. I mean, look, there's a firefighter Bill of Rights, there is a police officer Bill of Rights, and I would argue that the Civil Service Board was probably going to reappoint this guy back to the police chief, which is probably why you had this lawsuit. I mean, we know what it said, that the attorney was going to have this surgery or had to have this surgery or something other, or notification.
And the city's attorney wasn't notified properly before that. There were actually multiple reasons for that.
I got to tell you, I don't know that I'm buying into all that. And it's one thing that we got just one email on this. We lost count of the number of emails that we got on this. If you go on to Cut 13, let's go to the next anonymous email. And we're not going to share all of them, but let's at least share 3 or 4 more anonymous emails that we got regarding this subject, Rex.
All right, here's Cut 13 again. Sorry for the small type, but let me read it out for those who are listening. The mayor and Louisiana State Police, along with Richard Ray, met with Skylar Marvin today, which will be Friday, December the 3rd, at Louisiana State Police, and he told them they have nothing, and he better be ready for the massive lawsuit that's about to be filed against him in the city. He also told Chandler to effing grow up. Literally a few hours after the meeting, Chandler and his people make up some bullcrap charge because they know they were wrong. At what point does this crap end? This is the most childish crap by a bunch of grown-ass men. Sorry, had to vent. I pray that citizens of Bossier City can see what's really going on here. Have a great weekend. That actually sounds like something Skylar may have said.
I can see that. I mean, as you know, again, I'm troubled by something else. We've sent 2 requests to the Louisiana State Police. Now, What I will say is I do know that the person that was over Troop G has been moved. He's been appointed and then moved again during the middle of this process. How that plays into all of this, I don't know. But the fact is, basically, we've gotten no response to date out of the Louisiana State Police on
Yeah.
any of this. Does that mean that they're going along? I don't know. I'm not going to say anything bad, but
Yeah, we've got to follow up with them. It could have just been lost in the shuffle. Who knows? But it is kind of interesting about it.
but it would be one thing if this was the only email that we got regarding the district attorney and the Louisiana State Police. But this is one of multiple emails we have gotten.
Yeah, here's one more, and then we'll start wrapping it up. Again, this is back on Friday, December the 3rd, and it's basically the same thing that Tommy met with state police investigators. Both the state police and the DA told the mayor there is no investigation, no criminal acts were committed, and this ties right into the mayor's press release that came out Friday. No criminal acts were committed or will be prosecuted, except Tommy didn't mention this part, if true, that there were no criminal acts. He just said that they wrapped up the investigation. The state police gave the indication to the DA that they were misled.
Now, Rex, I'm going to jump way ahead here because you remember there was this rumor about, Shane McWilliams and this. Again, we showed pictures of this damage to this vehicle, and we don't know if it's related or supposed to be related to the accident that was said to have supposedly happened. In fact, we got an anonymous email that said we needed to reach out to the sheriff's office for information pertaining to the accident that happened with Shane McWilliams.
Right.
And then we had another anonymous email that said there was this incident involving a deer or striking a deer.
Yeah.
I mean, so many rabbit holes. But the last paragraph of this email is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this. And again, this is from an anonymous email sent to us via Proton Mail. So I'm not saying that this is true or not. This is alleged. A few weeks ago, Charles Jacobs got into a wreck. He knocked off the side mirror of his car and scratched it up, allegedly intoxicated. This is his city-issued car. He had the city garage covered up, buff out the scratches, and replace the side mirror. Check into parts ordered on vehicle number 2740. That is his city car number. No report on the damage of any kind and no mandatory drug testing with the city was done. This is standard procedure for an accident involving a city employee or vehicle. Well, that's interesting. If true.
That is very interesting if true. Now, so that would be essentially the same thing that's being, I'm thinking, insinuated towards Shane McWilliams is being insinuated towards the city attorney. The same guy that hasn't given us all the documents that we wanted. So, and we know they exist. It's not a matter of if they exist. We know that they're being should I say withheld? Is withheld correct? Is that the right words to use?
Not being forthcoming. How about
I mean,
that?
look, we
You're
know
right.
we can.
They haven't been sent
get
to
them.
us. Yeah.
We know we can get them at Jill Sessions' office, but this game implies that as citizen journalists, we can ask for them, and they should be able to be presented to us. But yet, for
As
some
required
reason,
by law.
they're not presented to us. We're given bits and pieces. It's like this game. So then we get this, and what are we to do with this? So
this is like
Rex,
a Hatfield versus the McCoys deal.
So Rex, let me ask you a question. If we sent a request in to the mayor and this individual about car number 2740, I'm wondering, what do you think response we would get?
Wait a minute. Let's see. I think that's what we would get. Crickets chirping.
I mean, would we get a damage report on a Zamboni? Do you think?
We
I
might
think
get a
not.
Zamboni trying to run us down in our own houses at this point. So I want to be clear again. Anonymous email. This is all alleged. We're not saying that Shane McWilliams did any damage to the police chief's vehicle. We're not saying that Charles Jacobs was intoxicated and knocked the side mirror off of vehicle number 2740. But this is not the first time we've gotten this information on both sides.
Now I got to know. I got to ask you a question, Rex, and this is where we're going to close out the show. And for all of you watching, if you want a clue into a future show, I'm going to ask Rex if he has a scene from The Waterboy ready and waiting, because I know he has been all fired up and excited about this, and we're not going to go real deep into this because we can't. But we're going to cue you in to possibly something in the future. So, am I going to get let down or not?
Oh, okay. So it's
I gave you a chance and you weren't ready.
No, I trust me, I'm ready. But we had a discussion earlier. Okay, so it's one of those deals where you're either an Adam Sandler fan or not, and I happen to be an Adam Sandler fan. And Waterboy was one of my boys' favorite movies. I like it too. I've watched it probably 40 million times, and I'm not exaggerating that much. Well, as you know, Bobby Boucher's girlfriend was named Vicky Valancourt, if I remember correctly.
Vicky Valancourt, yeah.
Yes. And there's a scene where, Bobby Boucher is kind of bucking his mama a little bit. And anyway, there's a scene in there where Vicky showed Bobby Boucher some particular things that women have. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
And we'll just say they are superior rather than inferior.
Now,
and
we are not starting an adult channel here. Let me just say that this really may have relevance.
So, if you are an elected official, an appointed official, or anybody in local government in Bossier Parish, you probably not want to miss a Bossier Watch in the near future, because somebody within close proximity to you could be a subject of the conversation we're having right now about Vicky Valentine and Bobby Boucher.
And Ashley Lee Bullock says, Vegas Comfort Professionals. Well, kind of close, Ashley Lee.
Yeah, but not so close. But we're giving you guys a hint to the future here, and we have to be careful. We're not going all the way out there, but we're giving you a hint that we are in possession of some information that, oh boy,
yeah.
What can I say?
If you hadn't watched The Waterboy in a while, go watch The Waterboy. As a side bonus, you'll get to see John Bell Edwards in there. He makes a cameo appearance in that movie too, by the way, as Bobby Boucher's daddy. Okay. Anyway, that wasn't nice.
So
what else?
How long has this show been going so far?
I don't know. I lost count. It must be close to midnight. We've been on for 2 hours and 17 minutes. We still have 76 people watching. That's pretty good.
So to the 76 that I see on Facebook, and to the, obviously it's over.
Probably a dozen or more on YouTube.
Yeah, however many more. And to all of you guys, for your committed, we salute you for 2 hours of torture from us. And I would encourage you to stay tuned. Again, help us to get this information out. We have a ton more. We are overloaded with information. And
yes, we are.
2 hours a week on sharing it's not enough, and we could go all night, but we've got to pace this and time it out. And we give you a little bit, share it out, help us share it out. And if we pour it all on you at once, people are going to come along afterwards, and they're going to be so far behind they can't catch up, right?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I would like to add in, and again, thank Lisa Friday Johnson from the Bossier Chamber of Commerce for helping us out with some information. Even though she's apparently still under the weather, we appreciate her watching. And look, full disclosure, I'm not a member of the chamber. I don't know, Duke, if y'all still are or whatever, but there's the website if you want to go check out the Bossier Chamber. They do some good things around town and for the community and area. So, hey, we appreciate Lisa helping us out a little bit there earlier this evening. What else? I'm out. I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm going to
tapping
watch
out.
the. I'm going to watch the Water Boy.
Hey, Louisiana Watch, we do got to plug that because the Shreveport, there is
Yes.
some crap went on in Shreveport. The governor's trying to put his hands in appointing a council member, and as well, Louisiana Department of Health. Did you know that the governor is trying to mandate that kids be vaccinated or have the COVID vaccine to be able to go to school?
There is a lot going on over there, and that's going to be a battle royale because the city of New York, which has nothing to do with Louisiana Watch, but the city of New York has mandated all private employers have to have their employees vaccinated. And so, what starts up there flows downhill, and we have a Democratic governor.
And I don't know, maybe it's the wrong thing for me to say this, as bad as I hate it to throw Raymond Cruz a credit. Raymond Cruz at the Louisiana Department of Health, he had some really good comments and really good points that he made. I'm sure it had Allie Feaster didn't have any help with that. She probably was an impediment to that. But Raymond Cruz did some good down there at the Department of Health. He was pointing out the fact that, of the 18 kids who have died as a result of getting the COVID vaccine, 14 of those 18 had comorbidities.
Yeah.
He did his homework and he made a good presentation. I'll give him some credit.
Well, we'll talk about more about that and that hearing and all that. Probably Thursday night around 7 o'clock. I think we're gonna try to do a Bossier Watch Thursday evening, so y'all put that on your calendars. We'll try to put out an event notice. And like Duke said, hey, we appreciate all of y'all watching. You know the drill. If you got some info to send to us, go make a free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information on there. If you really want to stay anonymous, set you up a VPN. Send us some email to BossierWatch@protonmail.com. We do read those. We get a lot of info in there. We welcome all of it. We welcome everybody watching, sharing, tagging people. It's been fun again this week, Duke.
It is an elected official. If you want to come in and correct us and tell us we are wrong, by all means, let us know. You are more than welcome. We'll be nice. We will. We're not going to give you a pass. We're going to ask you a tough question, but we will give you the opportunity to come in and let's just talk about it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. See y'all later.
Good night.